The forest was alive with death. Black spires of petrified trees clawed at a blood-red sky, and the air stank of ionized plasma and scorched moss. Shadows moved like predators, but they weren't animals. They were killers bred in vats, engineered for silence and ruthlessness, armed with blades sharp enough to slice light in half. The Emperor's assassins were never sent in groups unless the target demanded it. This time there were 10. A mistake. General Rhea Callahan lay prone on a rocky ledge above them, her rifle's cold barrel pressed into her shoulder. Through the thermal scope, she counted the heat signatures. 2 flanking the ruins, 1 crawling along the creek bed, another scaling the jagged cliff to her left. The others crept cautiously across the battlefield like spiders, their inhuman bodies rippling with bioarmor that pulsed faintly under the dim light. "Buddy, give me a read on these bastards," she whispered, barely moving her lips. Her AI companion's voice came through her earpiece, calm and annoyingly chipper. "Species, Drovar hybrids. Muscle density double human standard. Enhanced reflex arcs. High kill probability in close combat. Oh, and they have claws. Cute." She adjusted her scope and exhaled slowly. "Any weaknesses?" "They lack imagination. Also, their left kneecaps are hilariously fragile for some reason." Rhea smiled. "Good to know." Her finger tightened on the trigger. The lead assassin paused, its head cocking like a curious hawk. It sniffed the air and hissed to its team in a series of clicks and guttural tones. "She is near," one of them said. Its voice was low and wet, like oil sliding over metal. "You don't know the half of it," Rhea thought. She squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked through the forest, a suppressed burst of energy that tore through the lead assassin's skull. Blue ichor sprayed across the moss. "Target down," Buddy confirmed. 9 to go. That'll really motivate the others. "Wouldn't want him to get lazy," Rhea muttered, rolling away from the ledge as plasma bolts sizzled past the rock where her head had been. She slid down the embankment, boots digging into the dirt for purchase, and darted between 2 massive roots. The assassins moved fast now. Shadows flitted across the ruins, weapons drawn. General Callahan. A deep, resonant voice boomed through the trees. The Emperor's voice. He'd patched himself into the squad's comms, no doubt savoring the chance to taunt her. "You can't run. You can't hide. My assassins were forged to erase your kind from the stars. You are alone." Rhea snorted, ducking behind a toppled column. "Buddy, patch me through." Channel open. "Want me to add ominous music?" Tempting, but no. She tapped her earpiece. "Hey, Emperor, you sent 10 assassins to kill 1 woman. That doesn't sound like confidence. That sounds like fear." A pause. Then the Emperor's voice rumbled, deeper and colder. "You won't be so bold when they're standing over your broken body." "Sure," she said, drawing her combat knife. "But let's see how many I can break first." 2 assassins leapt over the ruins, claws flashing. Rhea waited until the first was midair, then rolled aside as it landed where she'd been, its talons embedding in the stone. She slashed upward, her blade slicing across the creature's throat. Blue blood sprayed as it gurgled and fell. The second assassin snarled and lunged, but she ducked low and fired a short-range burst from her sidearm. The shot blew a hole clean through its chest, sending it crumpling to the ground. 7 remaining, Buddy said. "Your efficiency is terrifying and oddly inspiring." "Thanks, sweetheart." She grabbed a fallen assassin's plasma blade and kept moving, her breath fogging in the chill air. The others were closing in now, their hissing and clicks echoing through the trees. 1 came at her from the left, its talons sweeping in a deadly arc. She raised the plasma blade just in time to block, sparks flying as the energy fields clashed. With a grunt, she twisted her wrist and drove her elbow into the creature's face. It stumbled back, and she took the opening to slice through its leg joint. The alien shrieked and collapsed. 6, Buddy counted. "Keep the score, I'll keep the kills," Rhea said. They weren't just hunting her anymore. She was hunting them. Another assassin tried to flank her, but she pivoted, raised her rifle, and sent a shot straight through its center mass. The creature staggered and fell backward into the underbrush. "That's 5. "Halfway there," Buddy said. Shall I cue Living on a Prayer? Hold it till the finale. As she sprinted across the clearing, 3 assassins dropped from the trees to block her path. Their claws gleamed and their inhuman eyes glowed faintly red. "Buddy," she murmured. "Yep, now would be a good time for a plan. You've got 2 grenades left and a conveniently placed fuel tank behind those ruins." Rhea grinned. "Oh, I love when you're devious." She yanked a grenade from her belt and lobbed it toward the tank. One of the assassins hissed in confusion as the device clinked against the metal. "Boom!" Rhea whispered. The explosion lit up the forest, a fireball roaring skyward as the fuel tank erupted. The shockwave hurled 2 of the assassins into the air, their bodies breaking as they slammed into trees. The third staggered, its armor scorched and cracked. 2 more, Buddy said cheerfully. Rhea darted forward, tackled the stunned assassin, and plunged her blade into its chest. 1. Somewhere above, she heard the final assassin's hiss. It clung to the cliffside, its claws digging deep into the stone. "Think it's planning a dramatic entrance?" Buddy asked. "Not if I get there first." She slung her rifle across her back and started climbing. Her fingers gripped the jagged rock, boots searching for purchase as loose stones tumbled below. The assassin screeched and began scrambling upward, trying to escape. "Buddy, what's the chance it reaches the top before me?" "Low." "Why?" "Because you're faster when you're mad." She smirked and hauled herself over the edge. The assassin was already there, claws raised, but she didn't hesitate. She drew her sidearm and emptied the last of her clip into its chest. The alien fell backward into the abyss, its screech fading into silence. "Zero," Buddy said. "Congratulations. You once again turned a hunt into a massacre." Rhea stood at the cliff's edge, staring at the horizon where the Emperor's fleet hung like black specks in the crimson sky. "Patch me back to His Majesty," she said. "Channel open. Want me to add some reverb to your voice?" Tempting. But no. She spoke into the calm, her voice calm and deadly. "Your assassins are dead. If you want me gone so badly, you'll have to come down here yourself." The line crackled, silent at first. Then the Emperor's growl came through. "You will regret those words, human." She smiled coldly. "Let's hope so. I'd hate for this to be boring." And as she turned away from the cliff, she dragged one of the assassin corpses behind her, leaving a trail of blue ichor in the dirt. "Let's send him a gift," she said. "Something to remember me by." Buddy chuckled. "Oh, this is going to be fun." The hunt was no longer theirs. It was hers. The wreckage still smoldered where Rhea Callahan had left her message. Blue ichor streaked the forest floor like alien graffiti, and above it all hung the limp, clawed body of an assassin she'd strung up by its own entrails. The effect wasn't subtle, but that wasn't her style. She'd always believed in clarity, especially when it came to enemies. High above the planet, the Emperor's command deck pulsed with shifting lights and hushed voices. None of his underlings dared speak too loud. The ones who had laughed at humanity's defiance last week were now avoiding eye contact altogether. "She killed them all?" a Drovar officer whispered, his chin and his fingers fidgeting nervously with a data pad. "All 10 assassins," another murmured. "No survivors. She sent one back in pieces." The Emperor stood silent before the viewport, staring down at the scarred planet. His armor hummed faintly with energy, and the glow from his crown of neural tendrils flickered in irritation. "She is only one," he said at last, his voice as deep and cold as space itself. "One human. How does this keep happening?" No one dared answer. The Emperor's clawed hand flexed. "Send the hounds." And the Wraith Legion. A Drovar commander sputtered nervously. "Sire, the Wraith Legion is highly experimental. If they fail, then we will send more." The Emperor's voice cracked like a whip. "We will send everything." On the planet's surface, Rhea cleaned the edge of her combat knife with a strip of cloth as Buddy's voice dripped sarcasm into her earpiece. "Congratulations, General. You've officially upgraded yourself from minor nuisance to galactic crisis." Rhea smirked. "Took them long enough." Buddy's tone flattened. "Their fleet is repositioning. I'm detecting over 36 new dropships entering atmosphere. And Oh, great, they brought the Wraith Legion. That's fun. Define fun, Rhea said, chambering a fresh round in her rifle. Fun for them. Not you. Rhea crouched against the base of the shattered column, peering through the scope at the dark sky as streaks of fire marked the incoming ships. If they're so dangerous, why do they need so many? Because you're terrifying, Buddy replied. Also, they have no imagination. Then let's give them some. The first dropship screamed overhead, kicking up a hurricane of dust and debris. Its hatch opened midair, and from the darkness came the wraiths, tall, skeletal forms wrapped in shimmering cloaks, their limbs jointed wrong, their faces covered in pulsing masks. They didn't touch the ground so much as glide over it. One of them sniffed the air and let out a piercing, insectal screech. Rhea's trigger finger twitched. Well, they're ugly. I'll give them that. They're also fast, Buddy warned. And, odd. Their pulse signatures don't match Drovar DNA. Looks like some hybridization with, wait, is that human tissue? Guess I'll have to teach them which side they're on. She exhaled, lined up her shot, and fired. The bullet tore through the air and caught the first wraith square in the mask. Instead of crumpling, the creature staggered back, clawing at its face as the mask cracked and sprayed black ichor. The others didn't pause. They shrieked in unison and lunged forward. Rhea rolled from her perch and sprinted toward a narrow canyon where the ground dipped sharply. Buddy, tell me there's something explosive down there. Depends. Do highly pressurized methane vents count as something explosive? Absolutely. Then good news. The wraiths were gaining. Their limbs bent and unfolded like scissor blades, carrying them across the terrain with terrifying speed. For seconds of impact, Buddy said. Plenty of time. Rhea skidded to a halt at the canyon's edge and drew one of her grenades. She pulled the pin with her teeth and tossed it behind her. The explosion wasn't small. It roared through the canyon like a dragon's breath, igniting the methane vent in a rolling fireball that consumed the first wave of wraiths in a single, blinding burst. Rhea didn't stop to watch. She vaulted over a rock and slid into cover as the ground shook. Buddy whistled. You're making a habit of reconfiguring their landscapes. Call it human engineering. Her earpiece crackled, and then a voice, deep and laced with venom, filled her head. General Callahan. Hello again, Your Highness. You cannot win. You cannot even survive. You are prey, nothing more. Rhea grinned. Funny thing about humans. We've been prey before. Didn't work out so great for the predators. The Emperor's snarl reverberated through the comms. I will see you broken before my throne. Get in line. The connection cut with a hiss. Above, more dropships pierced the clouds. This time it wasn't wraiths. They were bigger, heavier, bristling with weapons. Buddy, Rhea said, standing slowly and rolling her shoulders. How many? About 400 hostiles, give or take, plus 6 mech-class siege crawlers. And possibly a war beast the size of a transport ship. Want me to keep counting? Don't bother. General, you're surrounded on all sides. That's the way I like it. As the first siege crawler slammed into the ground with a metallic roar, Rhea loaded her rifle and whispered to herself, All right, boys, let's dance. Buddy sighed. You're really enjoying this, aren't you? Of course I am. They keep coming to me. In the distance, the massive war beast raised its head and let out a shriek that rattled the air. The ground shook under its weight as it began lumbering toward her position. Buddy, make a note, Rhea said, her voice calm. If I die, put went out with style on my tombstone. Noted. But for what it's worth, I calculate a 15% chance of survival if you execute a flawless ambush in the next 30 seconds. That's up from last time. True. Progress. Rhea cracked her neck and grinned as the first wave of soldiers crested the hill. Let's give the Emperor a show. And as the air filled with plasma fire and alien war cries, Rhea charged straight toward them, a lone figure in the dust, her rifle raised and her voice carrying over the chaos. You should have sent more. The Emperor's palace loomed like a black crown against the violet skies of Drovar Prime, its spires jutting upward in jagged defiance of gravity. Shields shimmered faintly around its structure, alive with the hum of planetary-grade defenses. Inside, servants and soldiers scurried like nervous insects as alarms pulsed in deep, throaty tones. Somewhere in the command hub, a Drovar tactician fumbled through reports, mandibles clicking nervously. She survived the Wraith Legion, the tactician stammered, his voice high and strained. She destroyed the siege crawlers and the war beast, Your Highness, with fireworks and pop music. The Emperor's massive silhouette stiffened, his crown of neural tendrils flashing angrily. Fireworks. The tactician hesitated. A display of Earth explosives synchronized a Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name. Then she decapitated Captain Vrax and used his helmet as a popcorn bowl. The Emperor's voice dropped low and dangerous. Is she here? Yes, sire. She infiltrated the outer ring 10 minutes ago. He swallowed hard. She brought snacks. On the other side of the palace gates, Rhea Callahan crouched in the shadows, peeling the wrapper from a chocolate bar she'd swiped off a supply shuttle. Buddy, she murmured, how many guards between me and the throne room? Approximately 312, plus 2 automated turrets, a minefield, and a 17-foot-tall armored beast called a Drovar Sentinel. Cute. She took a bite of chocolate and grinned. Sounds like a party. General, for once, consider subtlety. Buddy, subtlety isn't my strong suit. Carnage, though, that's where I shine. She adjusted her stolen assassin armor. It was 2 sizes too big, and the helmet wobbled when she moved too fast. Still, it got her past the first checkpoint with nothing more than a suspicious glance from a guard. Walk like you own the place, Buddy whispered. I do, she muttered. Inside the palace, polished obsidian floors reflected her every step as elite Drovar soldiers passed in tight formation. The air smelled faintly metallic, undercut by the dry tang of ozone. Rhea kept her head down and her stride steady. You're attracting attention, Buddy warned. Because I look fabulous. Because you're 5 feet too short for this armor. A guard approached, his mandibles twitching. Unit designation? Rhea stopped, tilted her helmet, and replied in her best guttural hiss. Unit, snack retrieval. Urgent. The guard blinked. Snack retrieval? By order of the Emperor. She tapped her helmet for effect. Do you want to explain why you delayed his protein ration? The guard paled under his exoskeletal plates and stepped aside. Proceed. Buddy groaned in her earpiece. You are human chaos personified. Thank you. She rounded the corner into a wide corridor lined with alien statues. As she passed, one of the statues turned its head. Buddy, she hissed. Motion sensor turrets. I suggest running. On it, Rhea bolted as the first statue's eyes glowed red. Beams of plasma cut across the hall behind her, searing into the floor where her boots had been a heartbeat earlier. She leapt onto a column, springboard off, and landed in a roll as the nearest turret exploded in a shower of sparks. That wasn't subtle, Buddy said. It wasn't supposed to be. Every Drovar in this palace knows you're here now. Good. Saves me time. She darted into a massive hall, where the air shimmered with energy barriers. Guards swarmed in from every entrance. Human, their leader bellowed. Kneel, and your death will be swift. Rhea cracked her neck and drew 2 sidearms. I don't kneel. The room erupted in chaos. She ducked and weaved, her pistols firing in short, controlled bursts. Aliens fell one after another, their armor no match for her pinpoint shots. Plasma bolts flew past her head, close enough to singe her hair. 37 hostiles left, Buddy reported, working on it. She flipped the table for cover and reloaded. A Drovar warrior lunged over a barricade, claws extended, but she kicked him square in the chest. His body crashed into the nearest energy barrier, frying him instantly. 36, Buddy corrected. Details. As the last guard fell, the energy barriers powered down with a faint hum. Ahead, massive double doors loomed, etched with the Emperor's seal, guarded by the towering Drovar Sentinel. Buddy ideas? Standard approach. Shoot until it stops moving. Unconventional approach. Tickle his underarm and hope at his nerves. Going with option 1. The Sentinel growled as it stepped forward, its massive axe raised high. Rhea fired a full clip into its torso. The bullets pinged harmlessly off its armor. Buddy, bad news. It doesn't tickle. Then aim for the neck seam. The beast swung its axe. Rhea dived and rolled, feeling the air hiss as the blade passed over her head. She came up behind it, jammed a grenade into the joint where its neck met its chest plate, and ran. "Cover your ears," she muttered. The explosion tore through the hall. When the smoke cleared, the Sentinel's body lay in pieces across the floor. "Buddy, remind me to send the Emperor a thank you card for this workout." "You're going to get yourself killed," Buddy replied. "Or crown Queen of the Galaxy. 50-50 odds." She kicked open the double doors. The throne room was vast and silent, lit by crimson torches that cast long shadows across the polished floor. At the far end, the Emperor sat waiting. His armor was darker than the void, and his crown pulsed faintly as his claws curled around the arms of his throne. "Human," he rumbled, "you've come far for a meaningless death." Rhea strode forward, her boots echoing. "I came to deliver something." "And what could you possibly deliver to me?" She reached into her pack, pulled out a severed Drovar head, and tossed it at his feet. "Me!" The Emperor's eyes flared. "Then kneel, and perhaps I'll grant you a swift end." Rhea raised her rifle and smirked. "Sorry, Your Highness. I don't kneel." The Emperor stood, towering over her, his claws extending. "Then you will break." Rhea's finger tightened on the trigger. "We'll see who breaks first." And as the throne room erupted in a blinding flash of weapons fire, the galaxy held its breath. The air in the throne room felt thick, heavy with the scent of ozone and old blood. Shadows stretched long across the polished obsidian floor, broken only by the faint flicker of dying torchlight. At the far end of the vast chamber, the Emperor stood, his towering frame shrouded in living armor that pulsed faintly with each slow, deliberate breath. His crown of neural tendrils cast a faint glow across his eyeless face. "You have been a thorn in my side for too long, human," he said, his voice low and layered with centuries of command. "I gave you a chance to kneel. Now I will tear your spine from your body and hang it from this throne as a warning to the rest of your pathetic species." Rhea Callahan smirked and rolled her shoulders, ignoring the screaming ache in her arms. Her clothes were torn, her sidearm's power cell was almost spent, and the barrel of her rifle glowed faintly from overuse. But her eyes burned with a sharp, unyielding light. "I keep hearing about this kneeling thing," she said, her voice carrying across the room like a drawn blade. "You must have a kink for it." "Sorry, not my style." "Arrogant to the end," the Emperor growled. His claws flexed as his armor plate shifted, preparing for war. "Confident," Rhea corrected. "There's a difference." Buddy's voice crackled in her earpiece, quiet and tight. "You're standing in a sealed throne room with one exit, against a creature 3 times your size with faster reflexes, regenerative armor, and a personal shield that renders most ranged weapons useless. And you're out of grenades. I'm hearing a lot of problems and not enough solutions. I was going to suggest surrender, but I forgot you're clinically allergic to it. You're catching on." The Emperor raised a massive gauntlet. Enough chatter. Rhea dove as a surge of energy ripped through the spot where she'd been standing, shattering the stone floor into molten shards. The heat seared her skin, but she kept moving, rolling behind a pillar as the Emperor's next blast obliterated it in a burst of pulverized rock. "Buddy, how do I kill this thing?" she hissed. "You don't." "Not helpful." "Fine. You could overload his neurocrown. It regulates his armor and combat reflexes. But to do that, you'd need to get close enough to physically jack into his cortex. So a suicide mission. Statistically, yes. Good thing I don't care about statistics." She sprinted across the room, firing her last 3 rounds to distract him. The Emperor deflected them with a casual swipe of his claw before swinging his massive fist. Rhea ducked low, feeling the air split above her head as the blow tore another chunk from the floor. "You fight well," the Emperor admitted, "but you are nothing. Your kind has always been nothing. That's cute coming from someone who sent half his army after one woman." Rhea shot back, her tone light, but her breasts coming ragged. She vaulted off a fallen chunk of debris and landed behind him, driving her combat knife into a seam in his armor. The blade skittered off harmlessly, barely scratching the surface. The Emperor swung his arm back, catching her square in the chest. The force sent her crashing into the wall, her ribs screaming in protest. "Buddy," she muttered through gritted teeth, "I could use a miracle right about now." I suggest improvisation. Humans are famously good at that. Rhea's eyes darted to the neural crown. Its glow pulsed faster when the Emperor moved, faint arcs of energy flickering between its tendrils. Improvisation it is. She sprinted forward again, zigzagging to avoid his strikes. The floor cracked beneath each impact as she closed the distance, her vision narrowing until all she could see was the faint blue glow of his crown. The Emperor grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground with ease. "You will not touch me," he hissed. "Want to bet?" She jammed the data spike from her wrist console into the base of his neural crown. The Emperor roared, his armor spasming as arcs of electricity shot across his body. "Buddy, fry it." "Overriding now." The Emperor staggered, his claws releasing her as his systems glitched. Rhea hit the ground hard but didn't hesitate. She rolled her feet and drew her knife again. "You think your people are strong," the Emperor snarled, his voice flickering with static. "But you're weak. You break. You all break." "Yeah." Rhea lunged forward and drove her blade straight into the flickering core of his chest plate. "Then explain why I'm still standing." The Emperor let out a strangled sound, half growl, half scream, as the energy in his crown overloaded. His armor cracked down the center, glowing fissures spreading like veins of light. "You cannot kill me. Watch me." Rhea twisted the blade, and with a final surge of power, the Emperor's body went rigid before collapsing in a heap of smoking metal and flesh. For a moment, the throne room was silent. "Buddy," she panted. "Yes." "Status." "The Emperor is dead. His fleet is retreating." "You did it." Rhea staggered back, staring at the lifeless body. Her knife slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. "Yeah," she murmured. "I did." Above her, the throne sat empty. She stared at it for a long moment, then turned away. "Let's get off this rock." "Where to?" Buddy asked. "Anywhere with coffee." "And the galaxy?" "You've just decapitated its ruler." Rhea smirked tiredly. "They'll figure something out. They always do." As she stepped over the wreckage and out into the cold air, the stars stretched overhead, vast, uncaring, and impossibly beautiful. "Tell them," she whispered, "humans don't kneel." And in that moment, across 1,000 worlds, a legend was born,